this is how multi-passionate people overcome the fear of being seen, which is one of the biggest creative blocks that will stop you from fulfilling your potential, making the money that you want to make, achieving your goals. It's a really important thing. There's actually 2 ways of being able to do this. Today we're going to focus on creative authenticity. I'm going to go into this here. So my name is Jake. I spent 28 years as an artist manager in the music industry, where I took some artists from complete scratch into selling millions of albums, #1 singles, #1 albums, selling out arenas. I did the same with DJs, completely from scratch into some of the biggest DJs in the world. One of them was top 10, so scores of top 40 hits across Europe. We toured the world, blah, 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 blah. And I spent the last 5 years in the creator economy, built an audience of 170k, and done similar for a bunch of other creators and entrepreneurs, all multi-passionates. Okay, so let's look at authenticity. This is creative authenticity, and this is how to reiterate how to overcome the fear of being seen. Ultimately, authenticity is caring more of what we think about our work, about our ideas, than what the audience thinks about our ideas. And of course, this is the most common problem that people have. If you've experienced Rick Rubin, maybe read his books or seen his podcasts, and he's been all over the internet, then you'll be familiar with his concept of the audience comes last. And what that means is that when he's working with artists, Jay-Z or Beastie Boys, whatever, is that he convinces them, no, he doesn't convince them, but he works with them to create work for themselves and not to think about the audience at all. And the reason this is so important is this prevents perfectionism, it prevents second guessing, and all these things. When you're in a perfectionist mindset, when you're second guessing, what does the audience want? Do they want this? Do they want that? Or do they want this? What this does is creates uncertainty, and that creates anxiety. And you know what anxiety does to your creative potential? It crushes it, okay? Whereas when you are creating your work for yourself, you know what you like. You don't need to go, what do the audience like? You know what you like. You follow your instincts, you follow your intuition, you follow your creativity, right? You create work that you are proud of. And then once it's finished, then you take it to the audience and you commercialize it or whatever. And this works in marketing as well, by the way, okay? Some people will say that it doesn't, but I would totally argue against that, and I've proven it time and time again, okay? So, okay. Creative authenticity. You start off with your true creative self. So what does that mean? Well, our creativity is our authenticity. We are creative people. We need to create. We create work. How do we make sense of the world, our worldview? How do we process our emotions? How do we articulate our thoughts? It's by creativity. But equally, we create our own reality by the thoughts that we're thinking. If we're thinking lots of negative thoughts and we have lots of limiting beliefs and creative blocks, then that's what we believe the reality to be, but that's not true. So when I'm working with artists, entrepreneurs, creators, etc., it's not so much about learning more. It's often about unlearning the creative blocks, the limiting beliefs that are actually holding them back, that are stopping they're just cutting off their progress, okay? So first thing is to be our true creative self. It's like, who are we? Behind all the masks and behind everything else, who is the true us? And that's not an easy thing to do, but it is achievable for sure. One of the ways that we make this achievable is that we say, be more weird, and I talk about this a lot. When we were kids, we were told we were too much, we were too intense, we were too sensitive, we were whatever. So we hid a lot of our quirks and our weirdness away so that we would be accepted by the tribe. So essentially what we were doing is we were rejecting parts of ourselves to avoid further, I am going to underline that word, further rejection from the tribe, which to be honest doesn't really work, right? And it's essentially people-pleasing. We do the same. It's people-pleasing with creativity. It's people-pleasing with our personality or whatever. It didn't really work. And if you think about it, how can we possibly feel good enough, which is our biggest problem, right? Which is the root, the shame behind the overcome a fear of being seen. How can we possibly feel good enough if we don't believe we're good enough ourselves, if we're hiding parts of ourselves away? So in order to be our true creative self, we have to be more weird, which means that we embrace our quirks. And again, this comes back to authenticity, where we learn to accept ourselves. We're more concerned about what we think of ourselves, whether we respect ourselves, whether we stop rejecting ourselves, rather than what the audience or the invisible audience do. Because we can't control that. They're going to do what they're going to do. Some people are going to like you, some people aren't. That is just life. However, what's really important is that you like yourself, that you respect yourself, that you love your work, that you respect your creativity, okay? Because it's very precious. Your whole life, purpose, meaning, everything to do with your life is contained in your creativity and your creative expression, okay? So if you can get these two things here, that means you've got creative alignment, Now, when you have creative alignment, you're creating work, you're articulating your thoughts, your ideas, whatever it might be, put them out into the world that helps resonate with the audience, with your younger self, whatever. And that allows you to feel seen, or at least other people to feel seen and heard through your creative work, your ideas, your business, whatever it might be. And that, of course, whenever people feel seen and heard from your creativity, that means you feel seen and heard. So what you're doing is you're building a really, really tight and honest, authentic connection with an audience or with other people, and that's because you have creative alignment, and that means you have belonging, and that is your creative power, is to connect with other people through creative authenticity. And of course, once you do this repeatedly, that's going to give you clarity, and that means you're going to be empowered. So when you see people like these artists here, these amazing people here, they were completely empowered in their creativity because they had all these things here, okay? And that gave them the creative authenticity. This is the most important thing you can do in your life. You want purpose? It comes from your creativity. You want to feel meaning? It comes from your creativity. You want to live a life that's true to yourself and not what others expect of you, which is the most common dying regret, then that comes from your creative authenticity. Everything comes from your creative authenticity. If you get this right, it will change your life. It will change every aspect of you. Your relationships, your business, your creativity, everything will change. You'll make more money. You will attract people just magnetically because you're being authentic, okay? So this is the most important thing to learn. So I hope this helps, and I will do another video on purpose another time. Peace out.